Hi all, and welcome to Lecture 4. In this class, we are going to see what is contingency planning. Uh, we- so, we are going to discuss about a case study which I have taken from Harvard Business School, which talks about iPremier company and denial, and of course about an attack which happened on this iPremier company. So before I discuss this case study, there are two things. Like in a previous class, we saw there are a few standards, a few guidelines which we can follow uh, to avoid uh, to avoid attacks or to make everything systematic in our business. So now now there are two approaches here to deal with the risk. I can say first is risk management, in which we are going to have a certain practice where we want to identify or we want to avoid this. We want to learn what are the different steps which we can use to avoid the risk. And the second is contingency planning, where actually we are more about we are thinking like the risk, the attack has been happened, and now what are the steps what we can follow to elevate this risk. So by this case study, we are going to see actually why actually we need this contingency planning in any business or in any organization that in before that organization starts actually working. So let me give you a brief background of what this iPremier company is. So you can get like I told you, you can get this information online from Harvard Business School in case studies. Although it's a paid service, so you may find different version of the same case study, but overall the objectives are same for this iPremier case. So what they have mentioned in this case, in this background is this iPremier company is a very successful e-commerce business company, which deals with selling online goods, and those goods are very end users luxury goods. And however, for most of the goods which this iPremier company sells, they are under $200 US dollars, and there are various customers that iPremier has, and all those customers buy this product online via their using their credit cards. So during 1999, the company reached the profit of 2.1 million on sales. Uh, Means out of 32 million, the profit was 2.1 million. So it was a huge revenue they were generating by this e-commerce platform. And the good thing, or you can say whatever it is, the company, most of the people in the company were young people, and they have very strong orientation. And this slogan was, "Do whatever it takes, and to get projects done on schedule." So you have to do whatever you want to do, but make sure that project is being done on exact plan. I mean, it's going through the exact planning, and it is on schedule. Now, the iPremier actually didn't have their own computer equipments and connectivity and all infrastructure. They used a third-party QData, which was an internet hosting, which was actually an internet hosting background company, which provided iBusiness with everything they needed to run their business, which includes actually basic floor space, power, connectivity, environmental control, physical security, and so on. Firewall protection, you can see these all means every services except from the manpower was provided by QData. However, there was a loophole with this QData, and it was like the new technologies were being used by many other companies, while QData did not took advantage of these new technologies. So everything was being used here was not up to date. Up to date means they were not using the current techniques to maybe in case of firewall, their firewall was not up to date. They didn't have any intrusion detection system in their case. So there were many things which this QData didn't have. And because of this, an iPremier company knew about this problem, and actually they were thinking to outsource the complete technical architecture to a different suitable vendor or supplier. But the thing was, it was not done because the company was focused more on growth, and they were thinking to minimize the cost and avoiding a service interruption to its customers. So basically, if they switch from QData to a different company, it may happen they have to turn off their the cost. Means the cost is going to be increased because they have to invest in new technologies, for example, intrusion detection system, more two-factor authentication, and so on. So these were some downfalls because of which the iPremier company was not switching from QData to a new vendor supplier. So in this company, actually, there were 6 participants. These 6 are the major key participants, which includes newly appointed Bob Turley. He is the Chief Information Officer, CIO, and then there was Jack, who is Chief Executive Officer, CEO, and then there is Yona Ripley, who she is actually operations team leader, and Warren Spangler, who is a VP of Business Development, Peter, who takes care of legal counsel, and then there is Leon Ledbetter, who takes care of operations team. So the entire story of this iPremier is going to revolve around these 6 entities. However, I have designed these slides to make it more interactive, and it may happen that I may not have captured each and every point, but ultimately what I want to convey from this case study is you are going to know by the end of once the slides ends. So how this story revolves. So it's like the Bob is a newly appointed CIO, and he has to take care of this iPremier company. So early in the morning, at 7:30 a.m., the company was shocked because there was a distributed denial of service attack on the company. We are going to see what actually this distributed denial of service attack is. Now, because of this DDoS attack, the company website was down, and the users, the authorized users, so who should have accessed this website, were not able to access their account. They were not able to make any new purchase. They were not able to see anything because the website was completely down. And suddenly, when this attack happened, the whole system, or the whole system was down, and it was paralyzed and inaccessible to the legitimate users. So what happened when this attack happened in the morning? So in the morning, Leon called Bob, and he mentioned we cannot access our website. So before that, so actually, when Leon called Bob, the Bob said, "Oh, why are you calling in the morning at 4:30 a.m.?" So he said, we are not able to access our website, and Leon actually is the operation teams who take care of each and every operations which takes place in the iPremier company. Then once he got this information, he just checks this information with the operations team leader, Yone, and he asks what actually is the matter, where she replies there is an attack on our website, and because of this attack, we are not able to access the resources. So when he was talking with operations team leader, suddenly he got a call from VP Business. And he mentioned about this, this company was mentioned was also was also put on this stock thing where actually this company was there on the on stock market, and this VP of business development was more concerned about this stocks and about personal relationship with of the customers. So he called Bob, and he mentioned like the stocks are going to be hit, but I'm going to try to handle this personal relationships in this case. So Bob replied, actually, he said, oh yeah, okay. So our team is working and we are trying to tackle this thing. And he was a little bit in pressure because it was his new job. And suddenly this attack happened in the morning. So everything was going very fast. So he was getting so many phone calls. He was also doing so many phone calls and so on. So then he called back to operations team leader, and he mentioned like, is it a critical situation? What and then what are our emergency plans or steps that we have to follow here? So operation teams replied like, we have a BCP here, but it is outdated, and we don't have, and we have not practiced any incident response. So this BCP and this incident response, this all comes under contingency planning. So I want to emphasize here, this is exactly what the loophole was, if you see here. So they didn't, so they had a BCP, but it was outdated, and they have never practiced any incident response plan also. Then he said, okay, so what are the options we have? Are the hackers stealing our data? So now she didn't have any information about this, because everything about every firewall information or everything which was related to the infrastructure, IT infrastructure, was handled by QData. So she mentioned, okay, let me contact QData, and I will get back to you once I have any information from them. And suddenly Bob also gets a call from Peter, who is the legal counsel, and he mentions like, we should cut the connection, because the website is not accessible, and we have credit card information stored on our storage system, and we can't risk the PII. So in this case, Bob was actually a little bit confused, because he knows like, if he cuts the connection, then if he cuts the connection, then everything will be inaccessible by everyone. So he takes this as an input, and he replies to Peter, okay, thanks, and I will see. And he mentioned like, okay, so I am going to see what I can do in this case. So he calls back again to operations team lead, and he checks what actually is the situation. And there she replies back to him like, okay, so it's an distributed denial of service attack. And she mentions like, it looks like a SYN flood attack to him, where SYN flood attack actually is a synchronized acknowledgement attack, which was happening from multiple sites. And the attackers were actually attacking the router, which actually was responsible to execute or to run the company's firewall. So suddenly, when this all things was happening, and then the attack actually stopped, and when the attack stopped, this operations team lead replied to Bob, the attack has stopped. So he asked, okay, so the attack has stopped, so what we can do then? What's next? So she mentions like, the website is now again running, and it can be accessed by everyone, and maybe we can start our business again. But she emphasized like, we should and she recommended like, we should shut down the entire system, and we should check what actually went wrong, and why the attackers were able to perform this distributed denial of service in our case. So this is the main story here. So we have Bob in the center, and if you see when this attack actually happened, it was early in the morning, and because of this attack, there were so many interaction with Bob with different stakeholders. So there were multiple stakeholders which are there in an organization, and each and every organization had their own views to deal with this problem. And we also saw like there were no incident response plan was there. There were no contingency planning was there. Nothing was there. So it was a very bad situation for Bob. And now, if you see the entire story, they were all stakeholders have their own comments. For example, the operation team says shut down and check what went wrong. VP business was more concerned about stock price. The legal counsel was also in favor of cutting the connection and to protect the PII of the company so that they can avoid some legal consequences. Because once the customer's data is out, the company can face severe legal consequences. And if I talk about CEO, he was more concerned about in getting the business back, and of course he was also concerned about protecting customer data. So what actually went wrong in this case? So first thing is, if you see carefully, there was a distributed denial of service attack in our example, and there are two things. First is denial of service, and the other is distributed denial of service attack. So basically, in the denial of service attack, the attacker use a single system to attack the server, and he tries to create a fake traffic. Because of this fake traffic, and because of the activities which he wants to perform on the servers gets busy in doing those computation, and the ultimate goal of the attacker is to exhaust the server resource. And this occurs on a very small scale. However, if I talk about distributed denial of service attack, we have in this case we have multiple attackers. We also call them as botnets. The main agenda is they try to manipulate the real traffic by sending fake traffics to server, and this attacks happens on a very large scale. So, however, in our case, we had in this iPremier case, if you see the attacker, this operation team mentioned like the attacker attacked using sync flood attack. So basically, sync flood attack works tries to exploit this TCP three-way handshake process. So transmission control protocol. They try to exploit this by overwhelming a target server or network with a flood of connections request. So the ultimate goal of distributed denial of service attack is to disrupt the availability, I will say, of the target system or service by overloading it with an excessive volume of traffic. So basically, in a normal TCP three-way handshake, the client sends a sync message packet to the server requesting for a connection, and then the server responds. The acknowledgement means sync acknowledgement. So server actually acknowledges, indicating that this connection has been established, and then the client sends the acknowledgement packet again, that mentioning that the servers with the server that the connection has been established between client and server. So this is why it is called three-way handshake. So first client sends this synchronized packet requesting for a connection to server, then server sends the acknowledgement that he is willing to establish a connection, and once the connection is being established, the client sends the acknowledgement message to the server saying that the connection is being sent. Now, what actually is going to happen in sync flood attack? So basically, in this, the attacker sends a large number of sync packets to the target server, and they do not actually respond to the server's acknowledgement, what they have been getting it from. This means actually that the attacker does not complete the three-way handshake by sending the final acknowledgement packet from their end, and because of this, the resource depletion can happen, and and all the memory of the server can get utilized in this process. So this is actually what distributed denial of service attack is. However, if I talk about like what actually went wrong, this was our basic thing. So what I think here is the main thing. What I think went wrong was from 2 points. One was from managerial point, and other was because of the technical issues. So if I talk about technical issues, what my personal opinion here is, I think there was no intrusion detection system in iPrima company, and the firewall which they used which was designed by QData. This was outdated, and they didn't had a very strong or proper firewall. Apart from this, in this story, we also saw that there was no detailed logging software that could have collected the evidence of attack, like what actually went wrong because of this attack. So there was no logging software was mentioned in this story. Means they didn't have this thing in iPremier company. If I talk about managerial problem, it seems like there was inadequate training for emergency. They didn't had any. They didn't follow any risk management plan. It seems they didn't follow any guidelines, NIST or ISO guidelines. The other is they didn't have any contingency planning. What they are going to do once the attack has been happened onto the company. And they also it also seems like they were more focused on the revenue, the profit, and they didn't have the security as a main strategic. They didn't have the security part in their main strategic planning. So these were a few things which I think which actually went wrong. However, if you see, there were immediate course of action they could have followed. For example, they could have shut down and they could have conduct a thorough forensic audit. However, if they do this, if they would have performed this, then there would have been more loss in their business because they were more concerned about the profit. And if they do this from the start, this forensic auditing, it would have taken a very long. Means it could take a very long time actually. So yeah, this is actually what the whole story is all about. And if you see, there are multiple factors which you can see from this case study. For example, what went wrong was the first thing you can analyze what went wrong in this company. Then the second thing approach could be like what could have been the immediate action they might have taken to escalate this risk or this attack. Other than this, they could have what can be the long-term alternatives, because right now they are totally dependent on QData. But however, for long-term, this going with QData is not feasible, I think, anymore. So they should contact a new IT company for proper security reason. However, if they go for a new for this long-term, if they go for a new company, there could be a more price overhead. And they right now they don't have any internal IT team in this who actually can look after all this attacks and security part. Other than this, like if they think to replace QData with a good service provider, there can be some pros and cons which you can analyze. For example, if they go with a new IT company, they could have got a new state-of-the-art infrastructure. They can have an improved defense mechanism. However, on the same side, it is going to be a very time-consuming task, and there will be a huge financial overhead on the whole company. And it can also affect the personal commitment with the owner of the Q data. Yeah, so this is exactly what was this whole case study. So In our next class or in our next lecture, we are going to talk more about what is contingency planning and how actually we can what steps actually we can follow once the attack has happened, and we will see. We will take the help of this case study to actually think in planning perspective, in like what we have to do once the attack is happened on any organization. Yeah, thanks for listening this video. See you. Bye.